Legion Alpha. We're going to kind of go over some of the changes that have happened since Warlords of Draenor, since we do have a big overhaul, including the addition to Insanity. That's going to be our main resource that we're going to be trying to gain and spend, but we'll kind of go over that as it all unfolds. First of all, we're going to go over the spellbook. Starting up top, we do have our Dispel Magic. Nothing's really changed here. It does Dispel Magic, one beneficial magic effect off a target. Very useful in PvP and sometimes dispelling in raids. We do also have Dispersion, one of our main cooldowns. It is a 2-minute cooldown. Disperse into pure shadow energy for 6 seconds, reducing all damage you take by 60%. Now this used to be a lot higher, I believe it was 90%, but I guess they kind of nerfed it a little bit. You are unable to attack or cast spells, castable while stunned. You can feared or silenced. Void form does not drain insanity while dispersed. So this is very nice when you're in void form, but it also has a lot less damage reduction. Next we do have Fade. Fade out, removing all threats for 10 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. Levitate, same as before, Levitated Party, so he can grant slow fall. Mass Dispel is a 1.1 second cast with a 15-second cooldown. Dispels magic in a 15-yard radius, removing all harmful magic from 10 friendly targets and 1 beneficial effect through 10 enemy targets. Potent enough to remove magic that is not normally dispellable. Now this is very nice since it removes all harmful magic. It was a lot better since it only used to remove about 1 per person. So, and it also does remove 1 off of the target, but it used to do that anyways. Now we do have Mind Blast. It's a 1.1 second cast with a 6.75 second cooldown. Blasts the target's mind for 33,000 shadow damage. It does generate 18 insanity. So insanity bar is going to be basically 1 through 100. Once you reach 100, you'll be able to have the option to go into void form, which increases a bunch of stats. But we'll go over that a little bit later. We do have Mind Control. Controls the mind up to a level 101 target for 30 seconds. Does not work versus mechanical beings. Shares diminishing returns with other disorienting effects. We do have Mind Seer back. It is still the channeled cast. Corrosive shadow energy radiates from the target, dealing 12,000 shadow damage over 3.8 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards of the target. It does generate 6 insanity over the duration per target hit. So, say you hit 10 targets, you will get 60 insanity after the 3.8 seconds. So, very nice building up insanity and also activating void form if you have a good group of monsters. Now let me switch this. We do also have Mind Flay, which is our basic ability. It's going to basically be our filler spell. It is a channeled spell. Assault the target's mind with shadow energy, causing 22,000 shadow damage over 2.3 seconds and slowing their movement speed by 50%. It does generate 10 insanity over the duration, so over 2.3 seconds. Quite nice. I do find that it is really a filler spell. Has no real benefit. I do like the fact that it slows and generates quite a decent amount of insanity, but I do find it just to be thrown in there. We do have Mind Vision, allows the caster to see through a target's eyes for a minute. Nothing's changed there. Power Infusion is talent, we'll go over later. Power Word Shield. Now, it does cost 5,000 mana, and still instant cast with a 5.63 second cooldown. Now, something to note here, with all the hybrid classes, since we don't normally work off of mana, we do work off of whatever bar we're building, in this case Insanity. We still have a mana bar for all of our healing spells. So you'll see that I have a 32,000 mana bar. So you gotta watch that. This does not take any of your Insanity away or something like that. So we do have Psychic Scream. This is no longer a talent. This is now just in the core, the spell book. Still instant cast with a 30-second cooldown. Lets out a Psychic Scream, causing 5 enemies within 8 yards to flee, disorienting them for 8 seconds. Damage may interrupt the effect. Purified Disease, nothing new there. With an 8-second cooldown, remove all diseases. I used to just remove one, so it's a lot better. We do have Resurrect, bring someone back with a 35% health and mana. Shackle Undead, nothing really new here, but we do have some CC capabilities of shackling just undead, basically preventing them to do any actions or movements. Now here's a new spell. We do have Shadow Mend. It does cost 7,000 mana with a 1.1 second cast. Wraps an ally in Shadow, which heals for 36,000, but at a price. The ally will take 1,000 damage every 1 second until they have received 18,000 total damage from all sources or leave combat. So basically you heal them, and then half of your heal gets damaged. Kind of an interesting way to do it, especially since our Shadow Priests aren't supposed to be healers, but there are some talents to modify this, so therefore you cannot, do not have to have this cost the damage effect after, only on yourself. We do have Shadow Word Death, instant cast with a 9-second cooldown. A Word of Dark Bidding that inflicts 24,000 shadow damage to the target, only usable on enemies with less than 20% life. It does generate 30 insanity if the target dies, but generates nothing if it doesn't if it doesn't die. You do have a few second grace period. Not sure if they're gonna actually widen that a bit at all, but we'll kind of see. We do still have Shadow Word Pain, a Word of Darkness that causes 3,000 shadow damage instantly, and an additional 34,000 shadow damage over 14 seconds. Now each time this ticks, it does generate 3 insanity, so not just on the first hit, it still keeps going up. I think it's a little bugged right now, but or maybe they changed it. But theoretically, I do see this going back so it generates insanity. Otherwise, they're just really not that useful spells, because obviously they give you damage, but they don't really work with your insanity. I do find that a little weird, but hopefully they'll fix that. We do have Shadow Fiend as our main DPS cooldown. Summons a Shadow Fiend to attack a target for 12 seconds. Nothing really new here. Do have Silence. It is now on a 45-second cooldown. Silence the target, preventing them from casting spells for 5 seconds against non-players. Also interrupts spellcasting that prevents any school of magic to being cast for 3 seconds. Now we do have Vampiric Embrace. This is an instant cast with a 3-minute cooldown. Fills you with Embrace of Shadow Energy for 15 seconds, causing you to heal nearby allies for 48% of any single target shadow spell damage that you deal. So this is very nice if you're taking a bunch of raid damage. You pop this, help out your healers, and get quite a bit of healing out as long as you can damage them. We do have Vampiric Touch. It is a 1.1 second cast. Touch of Darkness that causes 71,000 shadow damage over 18 seconds and heals the priest for 50% of the damage dealt. If Vampiric Touch is dispelled, the Dispeller flees in horror for 3 seconds. Now this does generate 4 insanity, but right now it does not generate anything after that. It's only on the initial cast, which I find a little odd, but it is nice that they, for PvP, for the spells, they did place this in instead of having to have glyphs or whatever like that, or talents. But it is a nice bonus effect. I know most of the Affliction Warlocks used to have stuff like this already built in, but it's good to know that they're building it in for Shadow Priests. We do have Void Bolt. Now Void Bolt is an instant cast with a 3.3 second cooldown. Sends a bolt of pure void energy at the target, causing 31,000 shadow damage and refreshing Shadowward Pain and Vampiric Touch to their original duration. It does require Void Form. It does generate 16 insanity, so this is a very key cooldown to always be popping when you're in your Void Form, just to keep up your insanity and also to keep up your dots while you're in that state. It does have a kind of quick feel to it, but very useful at gaining haste. Now onto Void Form. As an instant cast, activate Void Form, increasing damage by 30% and reducing cooldown on Mind Blast for by 3 seconds, granting an additional 1% haste every 1 second. Insanity will drain increasingly fast until it reaches 0 and Void Form ends. When Void Form ends, you gain lingering insanity, allowing the haste bonus to persist for 1 minute until you enter the next Void Form, or until you enter the next Void Form. It requires 60 insanity to activate. Now this is normally 100, but we do have a talent that kind of changes that. Now this is going to be your main kind of DPS cooldown, but you're going to be casting it quite often. Way less than a minute. I would say maybe 30 seconds max, especially during mid-fight when you have a bunch of haste going on as is. You can roughly get around 25, relatively easy, 25 stacks, so you do get 25% haste, which is insanely nice. Get those fast cast times off. Now we do have our Mastery, which is Madness. Increases the damage of your Shadowward Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Void Bolt by 38%. Notice that they did not include Mind Flay or Mind Blast. Now this was the Mastery and Warlords that increased basically your your spike damage, your instant damage. But this is different. It does bring the need to have the dots on the target. So it kind of benefits you to have everything up, especially when you're in void form. But in void form, it should be very easy, especially with void bolt. With void bolt instantly resetting the full duration. Now we still do have shadowy apparitions. When your Shadow Word Pain damage over time critically strikes, you gain a shadowy version of yourself that floats towards the target and deals 2,000 shadow damage. Note that this is when it critically strikes, and it doesn't say a chance of, so it is whenever it crits. So you do get some benefits from having crit in your stat priority. But overall, nice little passive. It does help out a little bit, not as much as it used to, especially with multi-dotting a bunch of targets. It is nice that it just works off of crit and kind of gives you an option to build a different way. Next, we do have the talents. And go over the 15 level talents to start. We do have Twist of Fate as a passive. After damaging a target below 35% health, you deal 20% increased damage and 20% increased healing for 10 seconds. Now this keeps applying, so if you damage any target below 35% health, you keep doing 20% more damage. This could be good for some ad fights, especially if you're good at getting your dots up, or at least mind searing, so it does proc the Twist of Fate quite often, therefore giving you more damage at all the time. We do have Fortress of the Mind, Mind Flay, and Mind Blast. Deal 10% more damage and generate 20% more insanity. Now normally Mind Blast would generate 15, and Mind Flay would generate 8, but since we had this, it does generate quite a bit more. But we do have Shadow Word Void. It is a 1.1 second cast with a 30-second recharge. It does have 3 charges. Blast the target's mind for 15,000 shadow damage and generates 30 insanity. Now this is wildly good, just to build up that insanity, because 3 right there, you get a heck of a lot of insanity, but it does have a large recharge time, so beware of that. Overall, pretty good starting off row. I can see if they moved a few things around, but we'll kind of play it by ear. We do have Mania. It's another passive. You do move 1% faster for every 5 insanity you have. So, nice little bonus, especially if you're at 100% insanity, or 100 insanity. You do get a 20% movement speed. We do have Body and Soul. Power Word Shield, increase your movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. Nothing really new there. Now this one is the one I was talking about earlier. Now it's still a passive, but it does reduce the damage. Does take away the damage at all when you're casting it on yourself with Shadow Mend. So instead of taking half of the damage, half of the healing back, you do just keep the whole 36,000, which is kind of nice. Gives you a little bit more self-sustain. Now moving on to the CC kind of talent row. We do have Mind Bomb with a 1.1 second cast, 30 second cooldown. Unleash a psychic explosion, stunning all enemies within 8 yards for 4 seconds. And this does replace Psychic Scream. I'll demonstrate this. It just, nice little cast time. But make sure that you have all your targets together, otherwise you're not going to get most of the effect of that. Next one, we do have Psychic Voice, reduce the cooldown of Psychic Scream by 30 seconds. Now normally it is a minute cooldown for Psychic Scream, but it does reduce it to 30 seconds. We also have Dominate Mind, which is another passive. You may also control your own character while Mind Control is active, and Mind Control now lasts for 1 minute, but it cannot be used against players. Now, this is a little bit weird, especially if you go fight, have to CC mobs. You can kind of run them away, then still maintain control of your own character. It's a little bit different, but also kind of a cool aspect to it. Now we do have Void Lord, which is another passive. Lingering Insanity persists for 8 seconds after you enter Void form. Now this could be very useful since Lingering Insanity does give you quite a bit of haste, depending on how many stacks you did get in your last Void form. Now if you're doing very well in keeping up your stacks, this will help out at the start of your Void form. Overall, doing a lot, helping you out quite a bit on starting out Void form. Now, starting out in Void form, it's not that hard to keep up stacks, especially the first 8 seconds. It is pretty easy, so we'll kind of see how this talent plays. I don't see it being the best, but it is nice to keep your haste going, and just for a little bit more damage. Now we do have Reaper of Souls, which is another passive. Shadow Word Death is now castable on targets below 35% health, and always generates Insanity even if it does not kill the target. Now if we remember, it does, wow, that is off. It says it generates 3,000 Insanity, which is completely wrong. But it does generate quite a bit of Insanity. Generates 30 Insanity. So you do get a bunch of Insanity on lower health targets, and basically able to keep up your Void form and get to your Void form quite a bit faster. Next we do have Void Ray. Each time Mind Flay deals damage, you gain 10% increased Mind Flay damage for 4 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So, nice little passive. Just overall increases the damage of Mind Flay. Now, since it is in your main ability, might be very useful. But, kind of nice little passive. Now moving on to the 75 tier, we have Sandland. It's another passive, bunch of passives. Does increase the damage of your Vampiric Touch by 20%, and the healing of your Vampiric Embrace by 20% as well. Now this just gives you more healing, basically more healing off your Vampiric Touch, plus it does a lot more damage, kind of synergizing. And when you do pop Vampiric Embrace, you do get quite a bit more healing for your raid. You do get 8% more healing. Now we do have Auspicious Spirits. Your shadowy apparitions now deal 100% increased damage and generate 4 Insanity. This is very nice, especially if we have a high crit chance, which right now we do not. We have a 12% crit chance, because every time you crit off your Shadow Word Pain, you do get a shadowy apparition. So, I I do find this synergizing very well with a certain set of stat priorities, but nice little addition. We do have Shadowy Insight. It's another passive. Shadowward Pain periodic damage has a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Mind Blast and cause your next Mind Blast to be instant. Now this kind of does the opposite of work off your Shadowward Pain. It does give you more insanity, but if you weren't working on the stat priority of crit, this is definitely a way to go. Gives you quite a bit extra, especially if you're in void form. This is going to be taking off quite a bit faster and built with haste, so it's procs all the time, as you can see. But very nice talent. Now we do have Shadow Infusion, Power Infusion. It's an instant cast with a 2-minute cooldown. Infuses you with power for 20 seconds, increasing haste and insanity generation by 25%. It's a very nice cooldown, especially for sustaining void form or getting even a higher void form stack. Overall, a very good cooldown, especially for burst fights. Now we did bring back Mindbender. It's an instant cast with a 1-minute cooldown. Now normally this does replace Shadow Fiend, but since Shadow Fiend's a 3-minute cooldown, this might benefit very well. It does last for 20 seconds and generates 5 insanity each time the Mindbender attacks. This is very good at keeping up your insanity. Especially since you can have it active a third of the time. Actually does quite a bit damage too. Seen a 20,000 hit there. 23, not bad. Next we do have Shadow Crash. It's an instant cast with a 30-second cooldown. Hurl a bolt of slow-moving shatter energy at the target, at the destination, dealing 27,000 damage to all targets within 8 yards. It does generate 15 insanity. This could be very nice for some AoE fights. Pop this, then pop your Mind Seer. Could be very good, but it does have quite a high cooldown, so not sure if it would work that well in the long run. Now we do move on to our level 100 talents. Legacy of the Void. It's a passive. Your Void form may now be activated at any time your insanity level is 60 or higher. I don't really think this one's going to stick through. There's no reason that you'd want to activate your void form at 60 in my mind, just because you lose your haste buff, and also unless you went with where is it? Basically void form, void lord, where it lasts for 8 additional seconds in void form. Yeah, I'm not really sure how that would play that well. If you choose both of those, might be good, but you definitely want your haste to be lasting for quite a bit more. I know you get a 30% damage buff, but you also lose your void form quite a bit faster. So maybe there's some good synergy with this, and maybe with the right stats, I could see this being actually pretty decent, but only time will tell. Now we do have Mind Spike back, but it replaces our Mind Flay, which is our main generator. Just basically, it has like a 1-second cast time, assail the target with shadowy spikes, dealing 4,000 Shadow Frost damage and leaving a spike embedded in their mind. Up to 10 spikes may be embedded this way. Mind Blast will detonate the spikes, dealing 200% additional damage of the original damage. So, if you stack this up, now this does quite a bit of damage. Maybe at 10 stacks, we will see 90,000 damage if I cast Mind Blast. Now on rotation, depending on your haste, you can get up around 5 every time, therefore doing additional 40,000 damage every Mind Blast. It's a little shorter cooldown in Void form, but yeah, very nice to get some extra damage. Now at the end one, we do have Surrender to Madness. All of your insanity generating abilities generate 200% more insanity, and you can now cast while moving until you exit Void form. At the end of this, once you exit Void form, you die horribly. I do really like this talent. This would be very good at burn phases. This is very comical, just because you do die at the end. Basically, all your Mind Blast, your Void Bolt, most of your spells generate a lot more insanity, but you do die. You can keep this up for quite a bit, but overall, a very fun talent. I don't really see it being that useful until like if a fight was a straight burn fight at the end, then I do see this popping up very high, especially with Twist of Fate having a 20% more damage. But I could also see Fortress of Mind being very good as well, just because you generate more insanity from your Mind Flay and Mind Blast. But overall, kind of a fun addition. Really makes Shadow Priest a little interesting. Next, moving on to the artifact weapon, we do have the Blade of the Black Empire. Starting up top, our main core ability that we do get from this is a channeled ability with a 1-minute cooldown. Raise your dagger into the sky, channeling a torrent of void energy onto the target, dealing 145,000 shadow damage over 4 seconds. Insanity does not drain during this channel, and it does require shadow form. Now this is a very cool spell that does quite a bit of damage, and also generates, well, it doesn't generate, but it also stops all insanity from being lost. So we'll see right here, pop void form, and it stops our generation, our degeneration, and does quite a bit of damage with a slightly cool effect. Overall, kind of cool little addition, especially the rotation. Pop this basically every other void form, gives you quite a bit more seconds onto your haste buff, therefore generating void form a little faster. Now the rest of these are mostly passives that do amplify your core spells, except for some of these do some added bonus effects, like Call to the Void, which is a passive. Mind Flay has a chance to spawn a Void Tentacle and channels Mind Flay at your target for 10 seconds. Very cool. It does remind me of some popular two-handed weapons that we did get from Dragon Soul that were very fun to play with. We also do have a Sphere of Insanity The Sphere of Insanity manifests for the duration of Void Form, duplicating all direct damage you deal with your Shadow Word Pain. Now this does give you a nice little damage boost. Not sure if 5% is the right amount, but a little nice nonetheless. Last but not least, we do have Mass Hysteria. Passive for every 1 second, Void Form increases the damage you deal with Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch, stacking until Void Form ends. Nice little damage buff, but I mean, you're going to be outside of Void Form more than anything, so it's not going to be all that used, I guess. But overall, kind of cool spec. It does give you a lot to play with on just kind of, you get to play however you'd like, which is very good and very useful nowadays, especially with all the different specs being very individualized and giving you back that feeling of, oh, I'm really a Shadow Priest and I'm really a Feral Druid or something like that. But very cool. I do like this spec. It is pretty fast-paced, especially Surrender to Madness, but a very cool one at that. Gives you quite a bit of options in your talent selection. So now I will do Surrender to Madness. We'll kind of see how this works and see how long I can last. Do we have all the right ones? Hopefully. We'll just work with this. This is fine. Alright, let's see how long I can last. I have to enter Void Form first. But alright, here we go. And Void Form, Surrender Madness, pop. Oops, there we go. Stop that. And boom. Boom. This does a lot more damage, but you can see that it's starting to massively increase. I'm at 35 stacks. Whew. 51 stacks. $66. Whew. This is a very fun talent. And also a very scary one. Oh, it's gonna end here soon. Yep. Oh man. Well, very fun talent. Well, if we did like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be doing one of each spec, so we'll kind of be going through and kind of seeing how each spec plays in the Legion Alpha. There's still going to be a lot of changes, so I know that it's going to kind of vary quite a bit. I will try to do as many updates as I can, but I do want to get through all of each spec first before I start doing some updates. But thank you very much for watching. If we did like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.